Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to Vantage Live Analysis. So I'll just wait for about 1 to 2 more minutes for more people to stream in. And at the same time, if you guys have any questions with regards to specific charts that you want us to look at, please put them under the questions tab as well. So we'll just wait for about 1 to 2 more minutes for more people to stream in, and then we will get the session started. Okay, so hi everyone. For those of you guys who just joined, right? So we will be starting the live analysis session. So as always, if you guys have any questions with regards to specific charts requests that you want us to look at, right? Please put them under the questions tab. We will also be covering 2 charts for today. So this will be on pound yen and pound Aussie. So let's take a look at them as well. And we will also be hopping on to the Vantage economic calendar following that, right? Just to see if there are any key news events to watch out for. So for those of you guys who just joined, right, a big welcome. If you guys have any questions, right, any chart requests that you want us to look at, please put them under the questions tab. So with that, let's start our live analysis session. So just a quick background about myself, right? So I'm Lee Sing. I will be hosting the session for today. So I'm also part of the technical analyst team that is recognized by the Technical Analyst Award, as finalist for the best FX research for 4 consecutive years. If you guys have any questions with regards to the technical analysis that's done on Wednesdays, we do have Fridays live trading sessions as well. So if you guys have any questions with regards to that, please reach out to me. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn over here. And you can also if you have specific chart requests, right, you can also put them under the questions chat. So just before we start the session proper, right, just a quick disclaimer here. So the information presented over here, it's for informational purposes only, it's for educational purposes, and it's not meant to be treated as investment advice. So this is the agenda that we will be covering for today. So we will first go on to the economic calendar just to cover the key news events, and then following which we will be covering on the trade setups that we're looking at. So for today, it will be mainly on pound yen as well as pound Aussie. Right, so these are the 2 setups that we will be showing. If you guys have any charts that you want us to take a look at specifically, right, or you want to run the analysis together, put them under the questions tab and we will take a look at them together. And then finally, we will also be opening the floor to Q&A questions, right? So if you guys have any questions, right, it doesn't have to be towards the end of the session. It can be halfway through. If you have anything that you want to clarify, please put them under the chat box. Okay, so with that, let's start today's session. So these are the 2 setups that we will be showing for today, right? So mainly on pound yen and pound Aussie. Okay, and I have a question, right? So with regards to a request for gold. So let's take a look at gold as well, right? So it just hit the support range this morning and rebounded. So will gold continue to be bullish in this incoming news of balance trade? So let's take a look at that as well. So we'll be taking a look at 3 setups, right? So let's take a look at pound Aussie and pound yen, and then following which we will go on to gold. So let me just bring out the charts. Okay, so let's take a look at pound yen for a start, right? So as always, we want to start from the higher time frame. So let's take a look at that. So I'll start from the daily time frame on pound yen. So let me just remove all of this marking. So over here, we just want to focus on the most recent development. You can see essentially, right? Even before the daily time frame, let's go a step further. So let's go to the weekly time frame. Okay, you're very welcome. So I have yeah, so if you guys have any requests as well, right, just put them under the chat box. I have the chat box open, so throughout we will be taking any questions. So over here, right, let's take a look at the higher time frame first. So starting from the monthly time frame on pound yen. So this is the highest time frame. So in general, I like to do the analysis starting from the higher time frame. So the higher time frames support resistance levels would hold more weight. So in this example, you can see over here, if we were to look at the monthly time frame, what we have in this region is essentially with this leg down and price is pulling back within this region. So this is one. Okay. So now that we have identified this, what the next thing that we want to do is to highlight support resistance zones. So you can see in this region itself, this on the monthly time frame, this was a previous support area that price came into test. So I'm taking the wicks of this candle, as you can see over here. So this is the demand area that we have, right? You can see that if I were to extend this across, essentially what we have over here, if I were to zoom into this, right? So you can either take the wicks of the whole this candle over here. You can see that price came in. So if I were to lighten and let me just remove the Ichimoku cloud and then also change the color so that we are able to see how price react better here. So let me just put it in gray. So we can see in this example, what we have over here, it's essentially on the wicks of this, on the monthly candle, we have price coming in to test this region. So if I were to zoom in over here, you can see that price came in and it actually interacted with this region before failing. So let me just put a marker on this, right? And you can see that if we zoom down to the weekly time frame, it's taking a while to load. So here, right? So on the weekly time frame, you can see this interaction. So this is the same monthly resistance that we have highlighted. And on the weekly time frame, you can see essentially price coming into this region to test it. Okay, I have feedback that you cannot see my screen, right? Let me just, okay, so are the rest of you guys seeing my screen on TradingView? Let me just stop sharing and share it again, right? You should be seeing a screen on TradingView. So let me just share that again. Okay, so can you guys see my screen now? Okay, that's great. Okay, so yeah. So I hope that you can see my screen. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so yeah, as I was saying, right, so back to the monthly time frame. So for those of you guys who missed out on the monthly outlook, let me just go back to the monthly. Just give me one moment as I bring my mouse here. Okay, so on the monthly time frame, right, over here, as you were saying previously, so what we have, it's price coming in to sit on this resistance area over here. You can see this region that we've highlighted. So I took the wick of this specific candle here, and you can see that when you go down to the weekly time frame, so we want to focus on this region. As much as possible, we try and find regions where price interacted with, right? Because what it shows us is that at this price point, we have buyers and sellers essentially coming in, right? And this is what you're seeing here. So this is the demand area. You can see that price came into this region. This is the weekly. It respected this area here, represented by this candle. You can see that this small push up before it failed completely. So this is one region. You can see price came in and respected it as a support. Then following that, it failed and it tested this region as a resistance. And then if to slightly to the right where price currently is right now. You can see that again, price came in, wick above this region and then push lower. And what you're seeing currently here is that even though price wick above this region, it fails to close above this gray area that we have, right? And this is the monthly resistance area that we have here. So this is on the weekly time frame. And once we have this, right, understanding that prices are sitting on a weekly resistance, a monthly resistance here. The next thing that we want to do is to zoom down to our daily time frame, and same thing, right? So on the daily time frame, what you're seeing over here is that you can see that prices are, so in terms of the market structure, right, you can see that price pushed up, tested your form and low over here, and then following which we have over here is that price came up, test this region again. But what you have over here, right, if price were to continue this bullish market structure, we should be seeing price form your higher lows and higher highs coming into this region. But what you have is that price came in, tapped into this resistance area again. And what's also important is that it failed to break the previous high. You can see in this region, right? So this low itself failed to take out the previous high, as you can see. So you can see price coming in from this area, right? So this resistance area that we have over here before it pushed lower. And what you see following this is that essentially once price came into this region, what you have here, it's a series of lower lows being formed over here, right? So lower lows over here, and you can see that price wick below, lower highs being formed that we have marked out over here, as well as a series of lower lows. So in our previous call back, I think last we're waiting for a push up, essentially for price to come in to this resistance area. So this is currently on the daily. I'm just going to flush this monthly resistance to the left. Now that we've understood that price came in and it's potentially sitting on the monthly resistance. With that, when you zoom into the daily time frame, you can see that this is the last area, or the last resistance area that we have here as well. You can see this area essentially, right? Going back to the topic on support and resistance levels, you can see that this was a previous resistance level. Same thing, right? Price came in, tested this region, we saw a strong rejection. And right now we are seeing price come in, looking in terms of support resistance area. In terms of supply demand zones as well, you can see that over here, right? So essentially what you have is that price came in and it constantly tapped into the extreme of this moves, as you can see over here. And what you have following this is that again, right? If I just extend these candles, you can see that price respected the supply areas, the supply region, and this is the last supply region that we have here. So this is on the daily picture. So once right now prices are actually testing this supply area that we have, right? And in line with that, if you look at horizontal support resistance levels, this would be the resistance level. So I'm just going to remove the resistance level. You can see the graphical level here. And also in terms of supply demand areas, you can see that right now prices are on the daily resistance or daily supply area here. So this is one region, right? So now that we have identified this on the daily time frame, right? Aside from the trend lines, we have a potential. I wouldn't say that this is the best descending trend line, so not the best area, right? Let's see if we have a descending channel here. So this is what we have. You can see this descending channel. Let me just change the color of this channel so that we can differentiate it clearer. So you can see this area over here. Essentially, for it to be considered a valid channel, we need price to tap the top and bottom twice. You can see over here. So in this case, right, this would be, oops, sorry for that. So this would be a potential descending channel. Right, so this area here, you can see again, let me extend this area multiple times over here, this region. And then again, right, we have this area over here, and then right now prices are testing this descending channel. So this is currently what we have on pound yen. So let me just remove the markings, and we will go down to the smaller time frame to try and find entries. So in this case, right, once we have identified that, let me just remove all of this so that we get a clearer picture. So on the daily time frame, right, prices are now sitting on resistance area. With that, let's go on to the 4 hours time frame. So on the 4 hours time frame, right, there isn't anything too different from what you're seeing on the daily, right? So there isn't anything much over here. Let's go down to the 1 hour time frame. So let's see what we have. So you can see that currently what we have over here in terms of your 1 hour prices are still forming higher lows and higher highs coming into this region. So this is on the 1, right? So on the 1 hour, you can see that got areas that I wanted to fill in order to give me more confirmation. So the idea behind this is that prices are currently sitting on a daily resistance. So in order to see price reverse over here, right? So you can see that coming into this region, prices are still forming your higher lows and higher highs. So what you want to see, it's clear structure being formed, coming to this daily resistance and a clear break below the structure. So it can be something like this, right? So price forming your higher lows and higher highs and a clear break below the last low before we take the shots. So this is one, right? So with that in mind, what we want to do is to identify support regions on the smaller time frame. So this is currently what we have on the 1 hour time frame. So if you zoom in further, you can see that this is the region that we want to focus on, right? Given that prices tap into this daily support area that we have. And again, right, applying the concept of support resistance levels that we covered earlier, you can see that when this area itself, this area was tested as a resistance previously, and then following which what happens once price tested this area as a resistance, right? It broke above, so this is the breakout that we see, and you can see that once this area failed as a resistance, it became the new support region. Like this, I just take the wicks of this last candle, as you can see. So this would be the support area that I want price to fail. You can see that currently right now, so if I were to put this in blue, so I basically took wicks of the previous candle over here, which price broke above but failed to close above it, and then follow. So this for me is the last resistance area. You can see that once price fails above it, what happens coming into this region is that price held and tested this area as a support. You can see if you just look at the interactions of this candle, so we have this wick over here, and then following which when price broke and closed above it. Let me just bring your attention to this candle and then again this candle here. So with that, right, we go down to the 15 minutes time frame and try and see the interaction between these candles. So on this candle itself, you can see essentially what happened, the concept of support resistance areas playing out here. Essentially, this was the previous resistance area, the one in blue, as you can see over here. Right, you can see price came back to test this region as a support before pushing higher, and then again here as well, right? So this is the area that we need to watch for, and essentially waiting for price to fail below this region and a retest in order to play the shots. So this is currently what we have on the 15 minutes time frame. So you can see that once we've highlighted this region, there are other things that we can check for as well, right? So once we've highlighted our graphical support resistance areas, the next thing that we want to highlight would be also using our Fibonacci retracement, essentially to try and find if there are any confluence levels that line up here. So that is the idea behind, right? So once we have identified this level, the next thing that we want to do is to see if this level itself, this blue region that we've highlighted, actually lines up with any support resistance, lines up with any Fibonacci retracement levels. So with that, right, what we can do, having identified this, same thing, if we want to use Fibonacci retracement to find support, right? So just a quick overview of what Fibonacci retracement is. Essentially, it's identifying the last move, as you can see. So if I have to paint out this move, this is how it looks like. You can see that this is the last move itself before the pullback. So with this in mind, right, if I want to find Fibonacci retracement to use Fibonacci retracement to find support, what I want to do is to identify the low and the high. So this is the swing low, as you can see over here. This is the swing high, as you can see here. So essentially what we're going to do is to use this low as our starting point and the high that we have over here as our ending point. So once we've identified this, right, we want to take our Fibonacci retracement with the lows and highs in mind, right? So Fibonacci retracement over here, taking the lows and the highs. So when you open up the key retracement, right? So these are all the default levels that you can find on TradingView. So with this, you can see that the area that we've highlighted, this blue region itself, lines up with the 50% retracement. So what this tells us is that in line with this area that we've highlighted as support, right, we also have Fibonacci retracement over here. So apart from Fibonacci retracement, right, the next thing that we want to do is to use Fibonacci extension to see if there are any confluence levels that line up here. So the concept behind this is essentially if you have a lot of Fibonacci confluence levels that are lining up in this region, what this tells you is that there's a high probability that this is a strong support area, right? So which is why it's important that if we want to play the shots, we want to wait for this support region or this demand region to fail. So with that, right, once we've highlighted this, the next thing is to identify our Fibonacci extension. So for those of you guys who are not familiar with Fibonacci extension, right, essentially they are zigzag patterns that we want to find. So you can see over here, right, so zigzag patterns would be something like this, right? So these are the two types of zigzag pattern that we can find. The first one, it's like something that looks like this for support. The other one, it's a zigzag pattern that look like this. So with these two patterns in mind, right, can you guys try and spot what we have here, right? So I'm looking for patterns that look either like this, the first one that we have, or the second one that we have over here. So look at these two patterns, right? I'm going to name them number 1 and number 2 over here. And try and identify, right, with the current setup that we have, do you see the zigzag pattern that look like number 1 or number 2? Right, so put your response under the questions tab, right? So try to identify the zigzag pattern that we have. So essentially what we're trying to do here is that we're trying to use Fibonacci extension to find this area, right? To see if there are any Fibonacci levels that line up in this blue zone that we've highlighted. We have found one, right? We found the Fibonacci retracement, the 50% over here. So right now what we're trying to do is to see if there are any Fibonacci extension levels that line up here. Okay, so in order to use Fibonacci extension, we need to identify zigzag patterns, which is why this question here, right? If you see the zigzag pattern that corresponds to 1 or 2. Okay, so put your questions under the, put your response under the questions tab, right? I'll leave it for about 30 seconds, right? So try and see if you can identify the zigzag pattern that look like number 1 or number 2, or both, right? So in this case, right, either number 1, number 2, or if you see both of them, and put your answers under the questions tab. Okay, so this is number 1 and this is number 2. Okay, so let's see if we have anyone, right? So do you see number 1 or number 2? Okay, so in this case, I will be drawing out the zigzag pattern, right? So give it a shot, pattern 2, right? And put your response under the questions tab. Or the chat box, not the questions tab. Okay, so in this case, we can see here, right? This is number 1. You can see this zigzag pattern that we have over here. This is the zigzag pattern, right? So this is more similar to point 1, as you can see. So this is currently what we'll be doing right now. We'll be doing this zigzag pattern. So once we've identified the zigzag pattern, we're using the turning point to find our extension levels. So these are the turning points, as you can see. So we'll be using that, right? So let's take a look at them. So these are the zigzag paths. This is point 1, point 2, and we use 6.8, 78.3 within the region as well, right? So this is what we call Fibonacci confluence. I'll put this level in blue so that we can differentiate from the retracement level. But essentially over here, you can see that this is the region. And what we want to do next is that if we expect price to push lower in line with the daily picture, what we want to do is to wait for a clear break and demand area that we have to play the shots. So this area for me would be the downside confirmation level. For this, right? So this would be at around 165. So this will be the downside confirmation level. So essentially, we're waiting for a break and close below this region, a retest of it as resistance before playing drop here. So this is over here, right? So once price breaks and close below this region, but if it doesn't, be the next target that we have, right? So let's go to the 1 hour time frame. Apologies for that. I think there's some technical issues. Right, let me just bring this back up. Okay, sorry for that. I think there's some technical issues here. Right, but essentially over here, you can see that this would be the next region to consider. Okay, so I hope that you guys can see my screen. So this is the region to consider next as the target. So I'm more bearish into this area, right? So we're just waiting for a clear break below the support area in order to confirm the downside. So it's a clear break below the 165 support region. So this is what we see on pound yen currently, right? So let's take a look at pound Aussie as well. So on pound Aussie, you can see on the daily time frame, this is currently what we have, right? In terms of the market structure, you can see prices forming a lower lows and lower highs within this region. This is on the daily. If you look at the 4 hours, you can see that currently we are within this leg, right? So this is the last leg, and we're expecting a pullback within this zone. If you look at the 4 hours time frame, you can see that there was a previous resistance level that was respected over here, right? So if I were to drag this region across, you can see that this area itself, price interacted with this region multiple times as a support and then again as a resistance. And you can see a clear break and retest of this region, right? So price broke above this region, showing that this resistance area now fails, right? So it failed to hold. And further, you can see on the 1 hour time frame. So this is taking a while to load. So let's just give it a moment. So on the 1 hour time frame currently here, right, you can see this area. This is the area you can see again, right? This was the previous resistance and support area. So this is currently what we have on pound Aussie. This is now a support region, and more importantly, to do with the Fibonacci retracement of the move from low to high. You can see over here. So this is the last move up before the pullback. If you take the Fibonacci retracement of this movement, this region that we see, also in line with the graphical resistance and support area that we found earlier on. So prices are currently sitting on support area. I'm more bullish on the 1 hour time frame. You can see, right? So currently sitting on this region. If you highlight this ascending trend line, you can see that prices are testing potentially this ascending trend line as well. So I think that we could be seeing more upside here. Right, so the initial target over here, this would be the high, essentially the high that causes that pullback. So this would be the first target levels. If you go back to the 4 hours region. Okay, let's just give it a while to load, right? And if you guys have any charts, right? So apart from gold, if you guys have any charts requests that you want us to take a look at, right? Please put them under the questions tab as well. So this is the first target that I'm waiting for. You can see that again, right? In terms of just resistance areas on the 4 hours time frame, expand this across. You can see this was the previous resistance area. Price came in, tap into it. So this for me would be the initial target if I were to take a long position here. This is one, and the other one would be this area over here. So this region here. So you can see this candle, right? So I took the high of this candle. So this area itself is the next resistance area. If I were to go down to the smaller time frame, right, you can see that essentially this consolidation that we're seeing over here on the smaller time frame, it's basically a consolidation on this candle. So what we can do next, right, it's again to draw a Fibonacci retracement. So this is your last leg, right? So what you want to do is to draw a Fibonacci retracement from the high and ending at the low. So let's take a look at that. So once you take the Fibonacci retracement from the high to the low, you can see over here, right? This resistance, and up the next resistance level at the 61.8, you can see that this is the region that we have here. So this would be the first resistance area. If price breaks above this area, then the next target that we could see would be the next region over here, right? So this would be the target that we have, right? The initial target, and the second target would be this area here. So this is currently what I see on pound Aussie, right? So now let's take a look at gold and see what we have, right? So let's see gold here. So again, we want to start from the higher time frame. Okay, so let's take a look at gold. So let's start from the monthly time frame, see what we have on the monthly. You can see on this region, right? Nothing much on the monthly. Prices are sitting on this support area over here. You can see this region. So it's pretty much, if you look at a monthly time frame, you can see that it's holding within this range where prices are testing. You can see price failed to break both the highs and the lows on the monthly, and currently it's testing this area here that we have on the monthly picture. So this is on the monthly picture. If you go down to the weekly time frame, right, same thing. You can see that this region is the support area that price came in and respected this area multiple times. You can see this region, right? So the same monthly area that we have over here, price came in, tested this region a few times that we can see here, right? So right now it's the third time that prices are sitting on this area. If you take a Fibonacci retracement of the move, right? So this is the last move before the pullback. So essentially this would be the lowest point and this would be the highest point. So why I identify this point is because I want to use the Fibonacci retracement for this point. So that's what we will do, right? So we'll take the Fibonacci retracement of the move from the low to the high and essentially see what it gives us. So when you take a Fibonacci retracement of the move from low to high, opening out the key levels, you can see that right now prices are sitting on the 61.8 retracement. So let me just remove this. You can see that this area, right, the blue zone that we've identified, it lines up with the 61.8 Fibonacci retracement here. So that's one, right? So on the weekly picture, you can see they're sitting on support level. Let's go to the daily picture and see what we have. So on the daily, it's taking a while to look. Okay, there we go. So on the daily picture, you can see over here, right? Currently what we have, it's a battle between support resistance. You can see price came in, right? So again, looking at just graphical levels, on the daily, you see a very clear support turn resistance area here. Price came in, tested this region as resistance, so sitting on support. So what I think we have over here is that we have, if you look at market structure, right? Price push down from your low over here. It's that price pulls back, and right now you have this new lower high that's being formed, and you have this region again here. So what we want to do, right? The idea behind this is to see on the smaller time frame. So we'll zoom down to the 4 hours time frame, the 1 hour time frame, to try and see if demand or supply is in control, right? So if you see that supply zones are starting to fail, what this shows you over here is that this high itself could be could be essentially the thought process behind this, right? So coming into this support region that we have over here, let's zoom down to the 4 hours time frame and see what we have. Or rather, I'll just go that, right? So on the 1 hour time frame, this is currently what we have. You can see price testing this region itself, this region or this area over here. So on the 1 hour time frame, what we have on this region itself is that you can see, right? So this area, currently we don't have clear support resistance areas on the 1 hour, right? So you see price essentially coming in to tap this region, tap the wick of this candle over here, pushed higher, and you can see this candle itself, the one that drove prices into this area itself. Right now, this would be the supply region. What you have over here is that price essentially broke above this area, so this high, and currently we're seeing a pullback within this leg. So on the smaller time frame, so this is on a 1 hour, right? If you look at just this region alone, right, there is no clear support resistance area here. So not on the 1 hour time frame. Okay, so let's zoom into the 30 minutes time frame and see what we have. So now that we have identified this, so this is currently what we have on the 30 minutes time frame. You can see here, right? So on the 30 minutes time frame, this picture, it's here. So we can see, let me just lighten this color. So prices are sitting on this weekly support area that we have. Let me just change this to a lighter color. Okay, and then on the 30 minutes time frame, you can see this area again, support resistance levels, right? So this area over here, look at how price reacted. Price tested as a resistance, broke above, tested as a support, and pushed higher. So as long as price comes into this region, this area would be the support area over here, right? So this is the region for me. And if you have to highlight, you can also highlight this area here. So this would be the support region that I'm keeping a lookout for. Let me just put this in a different color. Let's just put it in green. Right, so this is the support area over here. Right, so I think that goal for me, you can see that in terms of the 30 minutes time frame as well, it also broke this descending line, descending trend line. You can see over here. So price have been forming a lower lows and lower highs coming into this, and then following which you can see a clear break above the last high, which is this area. And then right now we're seeing a break and then a retest of this region. This for me is the first support area. So this is the graphical level, right? What we want to do next, again, after we've identified this, Fibonacci retracement of the move. This is your last move up before the pullback. So you will take the low here and the high as the ending point. So let's take a look at that, right? Fibonacci retracement of the move from low to high. You can see that this area, this green zone that we've highlighted as support, also coincides with the 61.8 retracement. So my view on goal is that we could see a pullback into this region. And then this, we could see a push up, right? So if we are seeing a pullback into this region, you want to target the last high that drove the pullback into this region, which is this area here. If not, right, if we see a further push up, then depending on what's the new high that's being formed before price comes and tests this area, this is the first region. The other support area, the other resistance target that we want to consider will be this region over here. Again, if I were to draw this horizontal line across, you can see how price interacted, testing as both a resistance and support area here. So this is the other target you can see here. Again, Fibonacci retracement of the move. So this is the last move. And then if we see a pullback, right, you can see that essentially we will, if we want to find Fibonacci retracement to find resistance, we need to start from the high and end at the low. So this is what I'll be doing, right? So Fibonacci retracement of this move from high to low. And you can see this area, right? So the 61.8 Fibonacci retracement is actually slightly lower than the region that we've highlighted. So if we are taking a long position, then this will lower than this key retrace level. So I think a good level would be at around the 1713.20 area. So this region over here, which is this resistance area that we've highlighted as well. Right, so this is one. So I think if price breaks above the high, we can see a further push up to this region here. So this is my view on gold, right? So I'm more bullish coming into this. If we do see a pullback into this region, I think there's a potential move up to test this resistance. But of course, right, this would be an area for me to consider break even and even taking partials, which is essentially the last graphical level that drive price back into the region before the push up. So if we're seeing something like this, right, then this would be the potential target. So yeah, so this is my view on gold, right? So I'll wait for price to approach this support level that we have at around the 1697.50 level. So this area, you can see this retracement level itself, the 61.8 retracement is at the 1697.55. So this is my view on gold, right? I hope that answers your question. Okay, so with that, we have come to the end of the session, right? So just before that, let's just go on to vantagemarkets.com and try and see the key news for today. So let's take a look at the key news releases for today. So under education and tools, just go to economic calendar, right? You can see that these are the key events. So they are actually categorized according to the color, right? So the ones with darker colors would be higher impact. So you can see over here, right, the upcoming ones that we have. This is Wednesday. So we have CAD data coming up, right? We have the Bank of Canada's interest rate decision coming up, as well as the PMI data. So we'll be seeing some more volatility in the CAD, right? But given that what we've covered so far, the trade ideas, we don't really have much with CAD. Okay. Okay, so I have another question, right? In a longer time frame, do you think it will be bullish given that it rebounded from support? I think that on the higher time frame. So let's take a look at, I believe you're referring to gold, right? So let's bring back to gold here. Let me just bring back the chart. Just give me one moment. So on the higher time frame itself, depending on the time frame that you're looking at, on the weekly, I think that it's more bearish, right? So you can see the daily structure. This is the daily structure. This is the last high. So currently prices are sitting on support level here, right? So if we see that basically demand zones are starting to hold, right? Resistance or supply zones are starting to fail. This for me would be the target. I won't target anything beyond this, right? So given that this was the last high that we have over here, this for me would be the last structure. This is the target. So this is currently what we have, right? So even if we do see a long-term bullish, right? This would for me be the target, right? So if I do have a long position open, right, depending on how price play out with this 30 minutes here, of course, taking partials would be, taking partials and also protecting your position is important, right, along the way. So you can see here. So if we look at a higher time frame, which is why I would say that like I would target the daily high, but not anything beyond that. If we look at the monthly time frame over here, you can see that this region itself, right, it's sitting on support level, but you can see that in terms of the trend line, price actually broke and retested this region. So if you go to the weekly, you can see it clearer as well, right? If I were to adjust this trend line, you can see essentially price broke and retested. This area was a previous support area, and then price broke and retested as resistance, which is why, right, for me, this will be the target. Right? I will not play beyond that. But of course, right, along the way, if you're entering from the smaller time frame, the 30 minutes, then you want to consider taking partials on the smaller, this region here, right? So there's 2 areas here. So yeah, so that's my view on Go, right? Okay, so I hope that answers your question. Okay, so I think with that, we have come to the end of the session. We have no other questions as well, right? So you can find our schedule on vantagemarkets.com/webinars, right? So we have webinars almost on a daily basis. So on Wednesdays and Fridays, we will be doing our live session. We'll also be doing a review of the calls made previously. On Thursdays, right? So that's tomorrow, we will be covering specific education topics. So for tomorrow, I believe we are doing, so you can actually refer to the schedule, right? So for tomorrow, I think we're doing demand supply zones, right? It's a follow-up from the previous, from last Thursday's session. Okay, so with that, we've come to the end of the session, right? Thanks everyone for joining us for today, and do join us for tomorrow as well. So we'll catch you guys tomorrow. Stay safe and trade safe.